I've explained this to so many people, and I'm going to explain it again. There are 50 states in America, plus the capital is 51 territories. If you cannot find anyone in all these 51 territories to love you for you, the problem is you. A lot of these marriages that we worship so much are not as happy. Believe me when I tell you, they're loveless, they reek of so much emptiness, and they're anything but the will of God. And unfortunately, a lot of this madness comes from the way we worship marriage. We put marriage on this high pedestal. Unless someone is married, especially a woman, unless someone is married, it's like we as a society, we don't regard them as anything. And because of this pressure, a lot of people are literally marching to their doom. But unfortunately, because of how much pressure, how much of a pedestal we put on marriage, a lot of people have succumbed to getting married to somebody first, and then when you live with that person, you get to know them. What if you don't like them? What if you're not spiritually compatible? What if you're not spiritually calibrated for each other? What if you're not sexually compatible? What if you're not mentally compatible? And unfortunately, you have children as a result of this malarkey, because that's exactly what it is, malarkey and sham. And now these kids are going to be raised in a broken, loveless marriage. And not only that, they're going to grow up and perpetuate a lot of that bullshit as well. And now they have to heal from your crazy ass. What's going on, people? Welcome back. It's your boy Uche. Today's episode is a big deal and also a very big trigger for me for a lot of personal reasons. This is a topic that I've always wanted to talk about for a really long time, but I haven't had the courage to talk about it until recently. My spirit moved me to come talk about it because this is something that a lot of our community, a lot of, Nigerian communities and also other African communities, also not just African communities, other communities as well. I know Asians, the Europeans, and so on and so forth, even Latin Americans also have the same issue. Obviously, as a member of the Nigerian community myself, this is the one that is closest to home. So I wanted to come out here and talk about it. Also, being a life coach, shout out to every single one of my clients over the years who have had the transparency and vulnerability to share with me some of the things that they're dealing with in their own marriages or in their families, or people who are just products of toxic marriages and toxic loveless marriages and so on and so forth. So I felt it in my spirit to come talk about this today. And again, like I said, this is a big trigger for me because I'm someone you would consider a product of a loveless sham marriage. As you guys probably know on this channel, I've mentioned so many times, I am Nigerian American. I was born in Nigeria, obviously to Nigerian parents, and my parents are two different people who didn't have any love for each other. They had no business marrying each other, but it was a sham marriage. It was loveless from the beginning. It was beyond cracked from the beginning. And also considering the fact that America was also involved, I feel like it made everything much worse because, back then it's not like today where we have the internet, the Facebook, the Instagram, the FaceTime, WhatsApp and things like that. So the distances were big distances. So a lot of the bonds that should have been formed between parents and children, the parent-child relationship was not developed properly. So as a result, there's a big lack of development. And like I said, my parents are two different people from two different walks of life who had their own issues, personal issues that they should have been healing from, family trauma, generational trauma, societal pressure, and all kinds of stuff. And instead of them to heal and rectify those issues before getting married, they went ahead and married each other because unfortunately in our culture, we think that marriage fixes everything. When a man gets to a certain age, it becomes law for him to go find a wife. When a woman reaches a certain age, it becomes law for her to go find a husband, without addressing a lot of the foundational issues that need to be present first before someone could possibly have a successful marriage. And growing up in my household, watching the intricacies of my family, that this loveless sham marriage rots away the entire dynamic is something that I'm still healing from many years later. And I don't want to speak for my siblings, but I want to assume that they are also trying to heal and recover from a lot of that toxic behavior that we witness our parents go through as kids. So yes, like I said, this is a very big deal for me. It's a huge trigger for me, but I want to, in my own spirit, come out here to talk about this particular issue because it's something that a lot of people are affected by, but a lot of people are not comfortable talking about it, like said behind closed doors. And unfortunately, a lot of what we see is the weddings, the flashy weddings. There's so much pressure to get married, especially when you get to a certain age, even more so with the women. There's a lot of glamorization of marriage, but there's not a whole lot of truth as to some of the dark sides of marriage, especially when it's not done right. This is why I have taken it upon myself to come out here to talk about this. But anyway, before we get started, if you're new to my channel, please make sure to subscribe, share with your friends and family, and please do not forget to hit that bell notification so anytime I upload a video, you'd be the very first to be notified. A few years ago, back in 2017, I went down to New York City to renew my Nigerian passport. If you live in America, you probably know that there are 3 locations in America to renew your Nigerian passport: Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C., and New York City. And I went down to New York City in 2017 to renew my Nigerian passport. And I remember while we were all waiting for our passports to come out, there's a little food truck. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Nigerian consulate in New York, but there's a little food truck right outside of the consulate. And I remember I was there trying to get food, and there's a bunch of Nigerians. And I remember this man, he must have been in his 50s or 60s. He said so loudly and so confidently that he does not like women in America. This includes American women and also Nigerian women who live in America. He said so boldly and so confidently that he prefers to get on the plane and go back to Nigeria to be with the women in Nigeria as opposed to being with the ones in America. This includes American women, white American women, black American women, and even Nigerian American women. And his reason is because he said that American women are too wild for him and the ones back in Nigeria are more tame. Now, of course, this is way before I started my podcast, so I didn't really have a platform to share my opinions, and I also didn't want to interject him. A lot of times people of that age, you can't really tell them anything. You know, they're sort of like solidified in their mentality. So try to talk to this kind of person is basically like pouring water on rock. But the interesting thing about this man's mentality is the fact that this is a mentality that a lot of Nigerian men have. Actually, not even just Nigerian men, a lot of African men in general have this mentality. And having lived here in America for so many years, I have had encounters with so many Nigerian men and African men, you know, from other parts of Africa, who always say the exact same thing. They don't like the women in America. They think that there's something wrong with America, or America corrupts women and the women in America are not loyal enough to them. So they prefer to get on the plane and go back to their countries. You know, for the Nigerians to go back to Nigeria and marry a Nigerian woman and then bring the woman over to America. You know, of course, other African countries, they prefer to get on the plane and go back to their countries and marry women from their countries and bring them to America as their spouse. And the true reason behind this, even though a lot of men will probably not admit this, the true reason behind this is patriarchy. Yes, patriarchy is still order of the day everywhere in the world for the most part, even here in the West. But I believe that is way worse in Africa. In Nigeria, for example, a lot of Nigerian men have this arrogance, this arrogance that comes from a foul audacity. There's a sense of arrogance. It's completely egotistic to assert themselves and dominate everyone, especially women, and tell women what to do. You know, a lot of times, even living in Nigeria, I remember witnessing a lot of domestic abuses. You know, of course, in Nigeria, it would not be called domestic abuse because as long as it's the man who's the aggressor, it's okay. I remember growing up in Nigeria and seeing a lot of men who are very vile towards their wives, the way they talk to their wives, and sometimes they'll even put their hands on their wives, and this is because of patriarchy.
Out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Bastard. Get out. Don't want to do it. Do it. Move. Talk about it again. Talk, do it again. Look. Yeah, look what I did with her. Talk about it. Talk, do it. Talk, do it.
Uncle.
Bastard! Idiot!
Uncle.
Get out! Idiot! Bastard! Continue it.
Uncle.
Get out! More do it! You pretend you're here. More do it, man, more do it! Come on, more do it! Idiot! Are you crazy?
Patriarchy has given a lot of men the audacity to assert themselves over women. And of course, coupled with the fact that religion is a big deal in Africa, a lot of African men try to justify and rationalize this vile behavior by misquoting the Bible. I think there's something in the Bible somewhere that says that women need to be submissive to their husbands. And I feel like a lot of African men have misunderstood that Bible passage to translate to that the women need to be their servant. They expect a woman to be their servant. They expect a woman to be their slave. This is why patriarchy is so bad in Nigeria. And this is why a lot of these men have these foul audacity to assert themselves so domineering over their women. And this is complete ego. Even living here in America, I remember, I believe sometime last year, maybe 2 years ago, I was visiting someone, a Nigerian guy who lives here in America. I'm not going to call his name out of respect, but I remember visiting him and we were having a conversation, and then his phone rings and he was talking on the phone with somebody, and the way he was talking on the phone with this person got me wondering, who in the world are you talking to? After he got off the phone, I was actually genuinely curious. Who are you talking to? Like you were talking to your slave, you were talking to your servant boy or your servant girl. It almost felt like he was talking to an imbecile. And I know it sounds very harsh, but truly, that's actually what I truly genuinely felt. I felt like he was talking to someone who was mentally inept. And then I asked him, who are you talking to? And he confidently said he was talking to his wife. I was genuinely shocked. You mean you're talking to the mother of your children like she is an imbecile? And then he confidently responded like, of course, yes, that's how it is. She doesn't listen. So it is my duty as a man to lead her and tell her what she needs to do. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Even I'm not even a woman, and even I was getting triggered right there. I cannot imagine anyone, literally anyone, not anyone that I love, not my family, not anyone that I genuinely care for, being talked to so disrespectfully like that. Of course she wouldn't listen to you. Of course she would give you attitude. Of course she would try to push back. Of course, because nobody, literally nobody that I know of would like to be spoken to like that. And the worst part of it is that this is your wife. This is someone that you walk down the aisle with. And worst of all, this is the mother of your children. And of course, naturally, I try to educate him that by talking to your spouse like that, you're actually creating more problems. I know that there's this illusion that you are doing the right thing because that's how you were taught by your father, by your ancestors or whatever, culturally, traditional, all that nonsense. But trust me, you're actually making things worse. And if for no other reasons, for your children, especially because they're watching these things, you're corrupting their minds, and then they're going to grow up with this mentality of this is the way a man is supposed to talk to a woman, and this is the way a woman is supposed to be so subservient to a man, and it creates a lot more problems. But I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Let me go ahead and segue to life in the West. It's very difficult for me to try to explain life in America to someone who's never been to America, especially someone in Nigeria or someone who lives in other parts of Africa, because I'm a realist. You know, I know that Hollywood and also some of the celebrities that we worship who come back and forth to America and also to other parts of the West, they do a really horrible job trying to paint the West as some type of heaven. But the reality is that that's not the case. Again, I'm a realist. I keep it real. You know, I talk about all the things that a lot of people shy away from talking about. And a lot of times when I talk about the reality of living in the West to people who live in Nigeria, to people who live in Africa, you know, unfortunately, a lot of them misunderstand what I'm talking about. Some of them even attack me and tell me things like, well, if America is so horrible, why don't you get on a plane and move back to Nigeria? But that's not the point. Again, I'm a realist. The point of what I do is to break everything down, educate people so that you are better equipped with knowledge. And because you're better equipped with knowledge, you're more intentional in making decisions that are based on reality and not illusions. So yes, of course, America is a beautiful country. I love America, but this place is not heaven. There are issues here as well. Just like I love Nigeria for everything Nigeria represents in my life, but then also there are issues in Nigeria as well. So to confuse one to be better than the other without actually looking deeper into the nuances of both is just malarkey, and it actually creates a lot more problems because now your decisions are based on illusion and not reality. But anyway, talking about the West, Western countries like America, for example, gives you something that I call comfort. This comfort comes in forms of vanity. Everything is so readily available to you here. It doesn't matter what it is. It's basically there for you. Whether it's food, whether it's sex, drugs, alcohol, literally everything you want is right here. It's easier for you to assess them. Whatever it is, America gives you the opportunity for you to be able to tap into a lot of these things a lot more with ease. And as a result, you're basically a slave to the system because really, you really don't own anything. And this is a concept that a lot of people in Africa don't really understand. Like when a person in America, for example, say that they have a house, they don't actually own the house. Most people finance their houses for 30 years. So which means that for 30 years, you are a slave to a system. Same thing too. A lot of times when you see somebody in America who says that they bought a car, a lot of times they don't own the car. They finance a car for like sometimes 6 years, sometimes even longer. They don't own the car. They are a slave to the system until that car is paid off. Same thing too. A lot of times when you see people who have an iPhone, Android, whatever it is, they don't actually own those things a lot of times. And yes, sometimes some people pay it off. off, but those people are minorities. A lot of people do not own what they have here in America. A lot of people do not own what they have here in the West. A lot of these things are borrowed, they're financed, they're leased. And as a result of having that comfort, they are a slave to the system. Now, you can look at this from two different perspectives, as something that is really smart or something that is very devious. But either way, it's obvious that this is a system that has been intentionally created. And I'm not going to talk about the intentions behind it, whether it's good or bad. Life in Western countries like America offers you comfort through vanity in exchange that you are a slave to the system. This is what I call illusion of success. Once again, there is intelligence behind this. This is very intentional for most people to have illusion of success in the Western world. Once again, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to stick to the script. And I'm not going to talk about the powers and intelligence and intentionality behind the system. But if you know, you know. But anyway, the point is that a lot of people in the Western world, for example, like America, have what I call illusion of success. Their success is not real. It is a comfort. This illusion is comfort through vanity that requires them to enslave themselves to the system. As a result of this illusion of success, a lot of people in the Western world are spiritually misaligned. Yes, including a lot of African immigrants. Now, this spiritual misalignment manifests itself in so many different ways. For some people, it manifests as lack of fulfillment. Some people, it manifests in emptiness. Some people, it manifests in loneliness. And I've talked about loneliness in the past, breaking down what loneliness is and what loneliness is not. A lot of people have this misunderstanding of what loneliness is. But the reality is that loneliness itself is much deeper than what we think we know. And I'm going to try to find that episode. I think I did it about 2 years ago. I'm going to try to attach it down below for anyone who's interested to understand what loneliness is. But the point is, here in the Western world, because a lot of people have an illusion of success, a lot of people are truly empty. And because they're empty, a lot of people are desperately looking to fill that void. And because of that desperation to fill that void, the system itself keeps pumping more vanity to them. This is why a lot of people keep subscribing to these vanities. It's sort of like a loop of perversion. But again, that's a whole nother conversation because there is intelligence behind this. I don't want to talk about that right now, Chad, because I like my freedom, okay? But the point is, a lot of these Westerners are desperately looking to fill their void, whether it's through drugs, alcohol, sex, fame, money, and so on and so forth, and even love. But the interesting thing about true love is, as long as you have void inside of you, you would never be able to find true love. Trust me on this one. As long as you have void inside of you, as long as you exude emptiness and loneliness and you haven't made peace with that which is within you, you would never be able to find love. And because a lot of people in the West are truly empty, yet they're desperately looking to fill that void with love. This is why there's so many broken relationships in the West. This is why you have a bunch of men who complain about the women and you have a bunch of women who complain about the men. But the point still remains that there's a void and emptiness inside of you as a result of this illusion of success. Now, for a lot of the Africans in the West, like America, for example, it is this void and emptiness that gives them the idea that only if they were to go back to their home countries, they will be able to find true love, because they believe that the women or the men, sometimes it comes from both ends. They believe that the people here are too corrupt and have too much issues, right? So it gives them this idea, this elusive idea that love is not here because this place has too much issues. Go back to Nigeria or go back to your respective country and marry whoever it is and bring them here and you'll be able to find love. And this is where you're wrong. I've explained this to so many people and I'm going to explain it again. There are 50 states in America, plus the capital is 51 territories. If you cannot find anyone in all these 51 territories to love you for you, the problem is you. I'm going to say it again. If you live in America, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're African or not, and in all 50 states of America plus DC, which is 51 territories, if you cannot find anyone, literally anyone, who will love you for who you are genuinely, the problem is you, not them. And I know that this is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about because it forces you to look in the mirror and have to face your demons. Even I've been guilty of this. At least I'm humble enough to admit it. There was a time that I almost made that mistake as well, when I thought that the emptiness and the void that I felt deep inside of me will be answered by bringing somebody into my life. And I'm so glad that I was able to wake up from that slumber and take matters into my own hands to begin healing my void. Again, I know that this is something that is very difficult for a lot of people to admit. This is something a lot of people are suffering in silence. This is especially men. A lot of people don't want to talk about these things because it pokes a nerve. It forces you to look in the mirror. It forces you to look at your demons. It forces you to look at the fact that you are truly empty on the inside. But again, I'm truly humble and honest enough to admit that even I almost fell victim to this because I had a lot of emptiness, a lot of depression, a lot of loneliness as a result of the comfort and the illusion of success that the Western world has provided me with. And I thought that the right thing for me to do is to try to fill my void with someone else. Again, I'm genuinely so glad that I woke up from that slumber and I took matters into my own hands and began to rewrite my narrative. And I'm proud to say that I'm in a much better place today. And this is why I do what I do, not just as a life coach, but also as a YouTuber, as an educator. You know, of course, I'm leading by example, by trying to be vulnerable, try to be as honest as possible. So you know that you're not the only one who's going through this. But trust me, I understand. I understand the pain that you feel, especially coming from Nigeria. There's this thing of Nigerian to Carolinas. We can't talk about our feelings, especially for black men in general, not just Africans. But if it's even worse for Africans. We don't talk about our feelings. A lot of times when you see a bunch of Africans, especially African men, get together, they don't talk about anything reasonable. It's always comparing cars and money and, you know, just a bunch of vain shit. A lot of people don't talk about these things. But trust me, as a person like myself who's very vulnerable and also part of the system, I know that emptiness that you feel. I know that loneliness that you feel. You may try to hide it as much as possible by your flashy cars and, you know, your titles and all this nonsense that we immigrants, we've confused as success. But your energy doesn't lie. And the reason why your energy doesn't lie is because, like I've always mentioned on this particular platform, there's only one truth, and that truth courses through all of us. The exact same truth that courses through me, if I don't recognize it in your energy, I know that it's not the exact same truth that I'm talking about. That automatically tells me that what you're displaying is an illusion. It's not real. And the way to handle that emptiness, the way to handle that void is not to avoid it all completely, but instead to lean into it, understand it, and make peace with what's inside of you. This is why I always say that before you get married, you need to heal first. Take your time to heal. This is especially more so because of the way we've been raised. A lot of us come from toxic family dynamics. A lot of us, we were raised with toxicity and we confuse this for culture. A lot of our parents were very disrespectful, very condescending, very selfish, and very abusive. And we laugh about these things in memes, you know, because we like to think that it's part of our culture. But again, like I've mentioned on so many episodes, these are precursors for mental health instability. A lot of us don't know what love is because our parents never taught us what love is. So it is important for you to learn what love is. Learn to love yourself. Only when you love yourself can you truly love somebody else. So again, it is important for us to heal first. Learn what love is. Learn to love ourselves for who we are and overcome loneliness. Only then are we able to find somebody to love us for who we are. And when you do get married, it is important for you to find somebody who is equally yoked, as in somebody who has the same power dynamic as you. Now, this is something that can be translated in so many different ways, but for example, if you're someone who lives in America, marry someone who lives in America. If you're someone who lives in Nigeria, marry someone who lives in Nigeria. If you're someone who lives in America, you're a U.S. citizen or you have a green card, marry someone who is equally yoked as you. Marry someone who is within the same tax bracket as you. The reason is because if you're somebody who's Nigerian living here in America, and you're trying to go to Nigeria to marry somebody in Nigeria, you're not equally yoked. You don't have the same power dynamic. And from that person's perspective, they have a lot more to gain from you than you from them. And because the power dynamic is not equal and they have a lot more to gain from you, naturally, of course, they're going to act in accordance until they get what they want. And I'm going to use myself as an example. Look at me, for example. I'm an average guy. There's nothing spectacular about me. I'm not the best looking guy. I'm not the tallest. I'm not the smartest. I don't make the most money. I'm just an average Joe. There's really nothing special about me at all. But if I was to go to Nigeria and say that I'm trying to get married to a woman, for example, there will be so many women in line to try to marry me by fire, by force. And I'm not trying to talk shit about my own people. I'm just a realist. Let's just keep it real. It doesn't matter if you're an average Joe. It doesn't matter if you're the shortest guy, the unattractive dude, from as long as you come from the Western world, you have a US passport, British passports, whatever it is that a lot of our people worship, you go to Nigeria, you will have people in line, even men in line to marry you by fire, by force. The reason is because there's something that they can benefit from. I'm not saying that this is everyone, for example. Yes, there are people who are able to go to Nigeria or go to their respective countries and find true love. Yes, those people do exist, but the vast majority, I like to believe, is not the case. If I were to go to Nigeria, for example, looking for someone to marry, there will be so many people in line trying to marry me, and because there's something for them to benefit from me, they're going to try to act in accordance of what they think I would like. like. And after I married them in Nigeria, come back to America, far for them to come to America. And then when they come to America and then we become equally yoked and the power dynamic is now equal, you're about to see the real person. Because what you saw before, that is not them. That is some type of pretense. That's some type of facade that they're giving you because there's something to benefit from you. Because the power dynamic is not equal, the person of lesser power is going to act in a lot more accordance to please the person who has more power because there's something to benefit. And believe me when I tell you that when the power dynamic becomes leveled, you will see the real person for who they are. And trust me, you may be beyond shocked. This is why I always say that you need to marry somebody who is equally yoked. You need to marry somebody who is on the same equal power dynamic as you. Just like they used to say when I was a kid, the devil you know is better than the angel you do not know. Once again, the devil you know is better than the angel you do not know. Because that angel you don't know, but you think you know, could actually become your nightmare once you get to know them. And once again, living here in America and also being a life coach, I have heard so many stories. Shout out to every single person, man and woman, who have confided in me to share some of their stories, because these are stories that you don't hear all the time, but they're littered on the news. I mean, just go on Google and search Nigerian marriages in America. All the boss is actually quite common, but there are two stories that I want to highlight in this particular episode. And watching these two news clips actually was so triggering for me. I'm not even joking, because this is very resemblant of what I saw with my parents growing up. My parents' marriage was so toxic, so toxic, that one of my sisters passed away at age 10. And even till today, neither one of my parents are still holding themselves accountable as to how this girl passed away at 10 years old just because of their mess, just because of a loveless sham marriage. So watching these videos was so triggering for me and almost brought me to tears. But anyway, trigger warning, if you are a product of domestic violence and or somebody who has been part of domestic violence in the past, this could be a huge trigger for you. You have been warned. So please feel free to skip these videos if you want to, and hopefully YouTube does not flag these videos because of how very graphic they are. But please go ahead and check out these two news clips and I'll come back with the rest of my commentary.
Yes, you fucked too.
Nothing happened to
Get
you.
out from me.
You
Get
come
out.
down here like nothing happened.
Get out, please.
You
Get
go and
out.
you fuck your lover. You come
Get
down here.
out.
You entered in the car in my face, in front of me. And
Get
you are
out.
talking about nonsense.
Get out from me, please.
Telling me to tell him to come pick you up. Get the
out.
fuck out of here.
Get
the
out.
fuck out of here,
Get
Chinenye.
out.
Get the
out.
fuck out of here.
Get out.
You're not needed here, Chinenye.
I don't need you.
Then why are you here?
So get
Why
out.
are you here?
Get
Don't
out.
fuck your lover, Chinenye.
Yes.
That's what you do.
Get out from
every
me.
day.
Get out from me.
Every day, and you're here. Then you're talking pure nonsense.
God forbid. It's your,
God forbid what, Chinenye. That's
out.
what you do, Chinenye.
Get out.
And you know.
Get out.
You know.
Get out from me.
Every day.
The young guy be
That's
like,
the
when
Oh, shut up.
Get out from me.
Don't
Don't hit me. Don't hit me.
Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Who the hell are you to hit me?
Why are you hitting me?
Why are you hitting me? You hit me. You hit me first.
Get out from me.
Take that. You stupid fool. You hit me.
Stupid
you hit
idiot.
me
Don't hit me again.
No, hit me again.
Stupid idiot.
You hit me, I hit you back.
Come on,
You hit me, I hit you back.
Nipe.
Hit me, I hit you back.
No, hit me again. Hit me again.
No, you hit me first. You hit me again.
Idiot.
You hit me again.
No, don't.
Let him go. Tell him to come pick you up.
Don't hit me again.
No, you hit me.
Don't hit me
You're the
again.
one that hitting me.
Don't hit. You're in my space. Don't
Touch
hit
me
me
again.
again.
Touch me.
Don't hit me again.
Touch me again.
Don't hit me again.
Touch me again.
Don't hit me again.
No, you hitting me. You hitting me.
Don't hit me again.
You hitting me.
Leave my hand alone.
I'm not holding your hand.
You're
Don't
hitting
touch
me.
You fool.
Stupid idiot. Stupid idiot. I'm not going to go.
Ọgbẹ́ àbújá fún mi. Ọ̀hìn kúrò. Bushati. Come grab that couch. Come try. I don't need you. You are shower. You are shower. I don't need you. You did no more. I don't need you.
Okay, God.
I don't need you. Look at you. I don't need you. That's why I don't want you. You'll be here begging me to fuck you. You'll be here begging me to fuck you. Every day that's what you do. You are begging me to fuck you, Chinenye. Whenever you're ready, let me know. No, I don't want you. I don't want you. You're disgusting, Chinenye. You're disgusting. The pussy smell. You're disgusting. You have given me gonorrhea. From fucking banana, fucking everybody else.
Get out.
That's what you're doing.
That's only you. You're the only thing you know.
You are saying again. You're fucking hot, Chinenye. That's
yes,
why.
You are.
You fuck everybody you
yes,
say.
You are.
That's
yes,
why
I
you
am.
not. I will not
yes,
let
I
you.
am.
I will not let you come by me.
Yes,
Close
it's okay.
by me. I don't need
it's
you.
okay.
I don't want you.
It's okay. Bye.
You see. Starting from tomorrow, it's a new ball game.
Okay, it's a new ball game. Let's see.
Bet me.
Let's see. You said bet you.
You hit me.
You said bet you.
What did you hit me
You
for?
said bet you.
Steal the house or something. Yeah, because this is a crime zone and a crime scene, so nobody's allowed to go in or out. Well, God knows why. That's all I can say. It hurts.
I'm sorry. You said who's been shot? Hello, sir. Are you
My
still
friend,
there?
I said I shot this demon in the face. Yes, me. Subuike Ohuabuna. You can come and take me. She's lying down here. She's always lying.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. I know you're very upset, but can you please tell me if there's anybody else hurt? Hello, sir? Sir, are you there?
I'm finished. Shabaka, you have finished me.
Hello, sir. Is somebody else hurt? Or you hurt yourself? Hello?
No.
Okay, sir. Thank you for that. Now, can you please give me the address to that location? Can you please confirm the address? Sir?
I have nothing to say to you. Chukuna, Zubike. So this is how it ends for you. What, Jojo?
Okay, sir. Emergency personnel are on their way as we speak. I need you to put down the gun so we can talk.
What? No, I can't do that. I need it. I can't do that.
I understand that, sir, but for right now and for the safety of the...
I will shoot myself before your people near me. Eh? You think I'm playing? Eh?
Sir, I know. I don't want you to do that.
Telling me that my mother cannot come and live with me. You cannot come and live with us in Dallas. Eh? Who the hell are you? Eh? You are enough, so you are God, Abi. Eh?
Sir, are you there? Are you there?
So you can build house in your father's village. You can build house in your father's village. Eh?
Okay,
but I cannot send you chain and
okay.
money. Eh? Me? As you be there,
Okay,
I come and answer asking you for permission to spend my money.
Okay.
Eh? I'm also Kibu. Marine spirit Kibu. That's what you
Sir,
are.
please.
You're a bitch. You are a bitch. Eh? You kicked me out of my own house.
Sir, please calm down. Sir, please calm down.
You want to be the man of the house, Abi? Impossible. I'm not gonna request you. I'm not gonna request you.
Hello, sir, are you there? Please speak to me. Sir, are there any children in the house? Sir, I would really like for you to...
Look at me. Look at my face. It is me that shot you. Eh? So you think you can mess me up and go for free? Eh? It is me that shot you. Eh?
Okay, sir, can you please put the gun
Look
down?
at me.
Can you please put the gun down, sir? Please. Okay, I have emergency services en route to your destination. All I need for you to do is put the gun down on the floor. Can you please do that for me?
You Americans,
you
think you can ruin my life? My destiny. Spoil my name. But if you kill me spiritually, I will kill you physically.
I understand you're very upset right now, sir, but I need you to please calm
what
down.
are you talking about? Eh? Are you any better? Me upset?
No.
Did I say she broke my phone? Eh? I said this Ogban girl finished my life. And she took everything from me. All my hard work, for what? Because she's a nurse, eh? Because she's a nurse.
I understand your frustration, sir. I understand. But if you don't want to put the gun down, can you please go to another room?
I made her who she is. Ask anybody. I made you who you are. Eh? She was in the village begging me to marry. Eh? All her family members. All begging me. It was me. You was nobody. You become a nurse and then you start crying. Start carrying shoulder, acting like madam. Eh? so that you will not give me your check anymore. Eh? Eh? Tell me I should leave. Tell me I should leave the house.
Sir, are you?
Tell me that I should leave the house now. So tell me to pack my load from the house that I bought.
Hello, sir? Hello, sir?
Please
Can you please speak to me?
You know how to call police all the time. Wake up and call it now. Wake up and call it now.
Hello, sir? Pick up the phone. Hello? Hello? Sir.
Go in the corner. Put your hand behind your back.
Okay, so you guys saw those two videos. The second video actually did a number on me. There's something very dark and malevolent about that second video, and I felt his pain. I felt it very, very, very deep in my soul. And the truth is that a lot of people have tasted what this man has tasted. It's just that a lot of people don't speak up. If you listen closely to what he was saying in that video, he was talking about how he went back to Nigeria in the village to marry this woman. So he basically married this woman out of pity because people were begging him to marry her. They were begging him to marry her. This is very indicative of how we pressure people for marriage so much. Myself, for example, I've had a couple of people try to press marriage on me, and thank God that I've been able to shut them down. But I can only imagine somebody else who doesn't have the thick skin that I have, who is constantly being pressured to get married by their parents, grandparents, family members, and so on and so forth, to the point that they succumbed to this pressure and went all the way to Nigeria in the village, picked up somebody who was really a nobody, and brought that person to America and dusted him off, quote unquote. And this is how this marriage ended, in a bloody mess. This is the reality for a lot of people. And a lot of people don't like to talk about these things. And it's so unfortunate that a lot of people don't like to talk about this because, again, the only things we see about these marriages is the brightness, the flashy weddings, the luxury, the Bella Naija, the wedding gowns. And this is what's littered on social media. It's so much facade of marriage. But unfortunately, a lot of people who go through these darknesses in marriage don't talk about these things enough to warn the younger generation. I don't know if it's because of ego or pride, but these things do happen. A lot of these marriages that we worship so much are not as happy. Believe me when I tell you, they're loveless, they reek of so much emptiness, and they're anything but the will of God. And unfortunately, a lot of this madness comes from the way we worship marriage. We put marriage on this high pedestal. Unless someone is married, especially a woman, unless someone is married, it's like we as a society, we don't regard them as anything. And because of this pressure, a lot of people are literally marching to their doom. Because it's one thing marrying the wrong person, but imagine having children with the wrong person. Because if you don't have any children with that person, it's as easy as divorce. You go your way, I go my way. I can even, share my inheritance and alimony, whatever it's called. If you take 50% of it, whatever, just get out of my life. That's a whole nother situation. But when children are involved, those kids unfortunately will be the reminder of the mistake that you made. Imagine getting old knowing that you are married to the wrong person. I've talked about this many times. One of the best things that can happen to your old age is getting old with the right person for you. Youth is fleeting. When you're getting old and you see that you're stuck with someone who is not right for you, someone who is a cause of your misery, someone who is a nightmare, bro, that is hell on earth. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't talk about this. Matter of fact, I remember hearing someone saying, get married first to the man and then you get to know them. Can you imagine how dumb this shit sounds? Isn't it supposed to be the opposite? Are you not supposed to get to know the person that you're getting married to first before, and take your time doing so? Not this few months bullshit that we do, right? I'm talking about years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Take your time to get to know this person before you get to marry them. But unfortunately, because of how much pressure, how much of a pedestal we put on marriage, a lot of people have succumbed to getting married to somebody first. And then when you live with that person, you get to know them. What if you don't like them? What if you're not spiritually compatible? What if you're not spiritually calibrated for each other? What if you're not sexually compatible? What if you're not mentally compatible? And unfortunately, you have children as a result of this malarkey, because that's exactly what it is, malarkey and sham. And now these kids are going to be raised in a broken, loveless marriage. And not only that, they're going to grow up and perpetuate a lot of that bullshit as well. And now they have to heal from your crazy ass, because that's exactly what it is. To reiterate the points that I've made today, it is imperative that we heal. We need to heal from our own brokenness. Unless you love yourself, unless you make peace peace with your loneliness, unless you fill that void by yourself, unless you learn how to love yourself for who you are, unless you unlearn a lot of those cultural toxic behaviors, unless you make peace with who you are, heal from your own personal issues, generational trauma, systemic pressure, unless you fill that void and make peace with your loneliness, trust me and trust me and trust me on everything. You would never find someone who loves you for who you are, because charity begins at home. And I know this is very difficult to do, especially for a lot of men, because, you know, men are very stubborn. I know this is very difficult. This is why I am a life coach. I've walked that walk myself. I know what it feels like to taste pain. I call this pain upper echelon pain. This is not just a pain of, you know, someone cursed me out or flipped me off or whatever it is. I'm talking about upper echelon pain. That type of pain that could drive you to jump off a cliff. That type of pain that could drive you to get a gun and pull the trigger. That type of pain that could drive you to commit crime. That's what I call upper echelon pain. And trust me when I say this is not of God, and I've tasted it. Trust me, I'm being as humble and vulnerable and transparent enough to talk about these things, because again, these are topics that our people don't like to talk about. We shy away from these things. I don't know why, but I am here to talk to you about it. I've tasted it before. This is why I am a life coach. This is why I do what I do. So if you're somebody who's stuck in this perverse loop and you're looking for a way to escape, and you're looking for a way to learn all the toxic behaviors that we've been indoctrinated into, you're looking for a way to unlearn all the malarkey we've been taught, you're looking for a way to learn how to love yourself for who you are, you're looking for ways to soul search and find who you are, this is what I do as a life coach. I am a life coach focusing on Black people, African people, and African LGBTQ people who live in diaspora. If this is you and you feel stuck and you don't know how to overcome, yet you're still willing to overcome nonetheless, please go to my website at theuche.com and send me a message on there so we can connect. This is what I do for a living, and trust me, it's coming from a place that is very genuine. I know the pain that you're feeling. And like I've mentioned before, there are 50 states in America plus DC, which is 51 territories. If you live in America, whether you're a man or a woman, and you cannot find somebody who can love you for who you are, the problem is you, not them. Anyway, this is the end of today's episode. Please let me know what you guys think about today's topic. Do you agree with everything that I've said so far, or do you not agree with me? Please share your thoughts down below. I always enjoy reading these comments and responding to some of you guys. And again, like I mentioned, I'm a life coach focusing on Black people, Africans, and African LGBTQ people who live in diaspora. Please go to theuche.com and send me a message on there, and we'll be able to connect from there. Also, please make sure to follow me on social media, Instagram at UC_images, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter at LTAU with Uche. My email address is letstalkwithuche@gmail.com. Please make sure to subscribe, share with your friends and family. And if you're watching on YouTube, do not forget to hit that bell notification so anytime I upload a video, you'll be the very first to be notified. Thank you so much. Until next episode. Peace out.